All right, Larry Wilmore's here. He's an actor, writer, comedian, the host of the Larry Wilmore Black on the Air podcast. And I consider him a friend, even though we don't
That's
talk.
my boy, Don
What's
Lemon.
up, my brother? Larry, am I going to flip you off again?
I hope so, Don. That's our relationship. It's built on, that bond that you have when you flip people off, when you tell them how you really feel. We've always been honest, Don. We've always been honest in our relationship. But I'm so happy. Oh, by the way, I apologize for low production values in my hotel room here. But I did want to make sure we had a chance to talk. So that's good. So
it's all good. Okay. Listen,
okay, good.
The reason that I say that, because when I flipped you off, you were the host.
Yes.
The comedian at the White House Correspondents Dinner that evening. And you said something like, some of the world's best journalists are here or something like that or whatever. And also Don Lemon is here. And I flip you the bird. And it was all in fun.
But I believe I said alleged journalist.
Yes, you said alleged journalist.
I believe those were my words.
But let's get to it. I'm going to tell people, look, Amber Ruffin, who is extremely talented. She's not only just she's not just a comedian. She's a great, fantastic writer, right?
Yeah, she is.
And she's a sketch. So I believe she's like a sketch comic, if I have that wrong, a sketch comedian. But she was supposed to host a dinner. Then they canceled her after she said something on the Daily Beast podcast. And so, look, they haven't said why, except they were reimagining the dinner and they wanted to honor. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but what do you think?
Come on, man. This is ridiculous. There's something going on where people are falling like dominoes, like this cowardice towards Trump and the genuflecting towards Trump and the administration. It just doesn't make sense because they hired Amber. They know exactly who she was. It's not like they didn't know. Like they just hired her. Oh, Amber Ruffin. Oh, that sounds like a really nice, polite white woman. That name, Amber Ruffin, And then, oh, heavens to be, who's this black lady who's going to say this?
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. Horrible things about our president. Hand me the pen, No, they even said they admired Amber. So it doesn't make sense. What would be the reason to change it? If you're not, look, I mean, it's White House Correspondents Association dinner. If they don't want to have a comedian, that's their prerogative, right, Don? But you don't hire one and then change it and act like you're doing something different with the format. That's bullshit. Everybody can see through it. It was so transparent. And somebody like Amber, who is the nicest person in the world, by the way.
Yes.
And she is very smart. And I think she would bring such a unique take to this that we haven't really quite seen from her point of view.
I've never forgiven Amber for she saw me out one night. We were at the same event together. And she said, "Oh my God, hey, Craig." Like Craig Melvin from the Today Show. I'm like,
oh, hilarious.
No, she goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Not you, Amber, thinking we all look alike. Not you, Amber.
It can come from anywhere.
Here's what I have to say. Oh, so you think it was transparent? I think it's bullshit because if you are catering, you're supposedly catering to the free speech absolutist. Comedians should be funny. They should be able to say whatever they want crowd. And then you get upset or nervous if you're worried that they're going to say something you don't like about Donald Trump. Shouldn't those be the folks who are most open to having a comedian roast them? Because they say they're the ones that let people be who they are. Let comedians stop canceling people just because you don't like what they have to say.
Yeah, they were just talking about when Tony Hinchcliffe, I think is his name, the comedian.
Yeah.
At I think it was Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
The updated rally that they had there. And I'm not that familiar with Tony. I've seen his clips from roast and everything. He seems very funny, very outrageous type of comic, and his stuff was very politically incorrect, you could say. They had no problem with it. Not a problem. He's trashing Puerto Rico, all stuff like that. From a comedian, I find nothing wrong with that type of stuff.
Well, he said Puerto Rico was a floating pile of garbage in the middle of the ocean, and he also said he and his best black friend were carving watermelons for, I think, Halloween or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. So outrageous. I have no problem with outrageous humor. If you're touching the third rail, whatever. A lot of times, is the venue appropriate for things? People can make that argument, and that's fine too. But everybody knows what so everybody knows what the White House Correspondents Association dinner is. It is a roast, and that's you're absolutely right, Don. These people are the free speech advocates and all this stuff. So that's the part that's hypocritical also. Like, who's Amber going to offend exactly?
Exactly. Aren't you supposed to offend everyone in the room if you have the opportunity to? Isn't it a roast?
Yes. Don, the key was everybody hated what I did when I did the White House Correspondents Dinner, and I considered that a success. Everybody had a problem with it.
I actually really liked what you did. That was a natural reaction for me to flip you off, but I actually really liked it. But that was a funny flip off. Like, we would see each other.
It was great.
We were playing awesome. A card, like playing a card game or hanging out. But I don't get.
And I say hate it. Let me put it like this: I went after everybody equally.
Yes.
Like, I didn't spend all my time talking about Fox News or Republicans. I talked about. I mean, even I told an Obama joke that even he was like, hey, and in my mind, I'm thinking, motherfucker, you're the president. I'm supposed to be making jokes about you. Of all the people here, I mean, I'll be respectful, but of all the people here, you have to throw some barbs at the person in power, of course, and of course the party in power. My regret, not my regret, but I wish more comedians had made more fun of like the Obama administration and really better jokes about Obama during that time. I think that would have helped a lot of, comedians at this dinner type of thing. Things became a bit one-sided, I felt, during that time in terms of humor.
You do. You think you think Obama got off easy?
I think they let Obama off the hook a lot, like even like the jokes, I always called them flattery jokes about Obama. They were never criticism jokes, where 99% of the Trump jokes were criticism jokes, which is fine. Like I said, I have no problem with it, but you can't have 99% flattery jokes with the president. You just can't, It doesn't matter who the president is. I mean,
even if the president is not doing crazy shit like Donald Trump is
doesn't
doing
matter.
Now, and it's not inspired.
No, you can find. You're not looking. You could do a comparison thing about who's crazier, absolutely, if you're doing jokes about both of them. But if somebody's in power for 8 years, come on down. There are plenty of jokes out there that you can. True. That plenty of criticism jokes. I mean, and I don't mean you have to demean the person or that sort of thing, but there's a lot of rocks you can throw at the power structure as a comedian that I think a lot of comedians didn't do because maybe they thought they were going to be racist or, whatever it was, they just didn't do it, And so when the jokes came about Trump, I think it really felt so over to that one side of criticism, which a lot of them were. But it even felt so much because it seemed like there were gloves off during Obama. Whereas Clinton to Bush didn't quite feel that way because there were a lot of jokes about Clinton,
oh my God,
from both sides, right?
The Lewinsky jokes and whatever.
But that's what I mean. There were no gloves off of Clinton from any comedians, and it wasn't even as it wasn't the political comedy wasn't even as pointed then as it did become, after that. Mm-hmm. And yet there were a lot of political jokes about it.
But do you think, though, we are in a different time now when you think of, if you're honest about what this administration is actually doing?
It depends on your point of view and where you're coming from. If you support Trump and you're honest, you're going to come at it from that point of view that, because honest just represents your feelings about something. It doesn't represent the truth about anything. It only represents your feelings, Mm-hmm. So they're like, let me say this, by the way. Here's another thing that this is exposed. Now, this is going to be a little anti maybe what some people might be thinking the way we talk about this. But the White House Correspondents Association, if they really didn't want to offend the administration, let's say, why didn't they hire like Greg Gutfeld or someone like that?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you think they would be doing this if they hired a right-wing?
Of course not. No, they'd still be doing it. They would still be doing it. But
that was my next question, as a matter of fact. You read my mind.
They should have hired Tony. Tony Hinchcliffe would have been perfect for something like this. The guy who did the thing, or even Joe Rogan, who's also a comedian. He's not just a podcaster, he's a comedian. But there's a lot of comedians who might be considered on that side who would have been perfect for this. Like maybe that says something about that organization too. Why are you only choosing this side? There's another side you could choose from. In fact, Gutfeld would have been perfect because he's in that he's one of the people really qualified to go after journalists and to make
But
barbs about everybody. You know?
Larry, I'm just being honest. It's not because he's right. He ain't funny. Greg, there is nothing funny about Greg Gutfeld. I'm sorry.
Depends
Now,
who
Tony
the audience is.
he's not funny. I think people think he's funny because he he makes fun. He tries to of people in politics, mostly the left, but he's not really funny. I think that Tony Hinchcliffe, okay, kind of funny. There's the other guy who's also kind of funny, but he gets a lot of flack for. Actually, he's not that funny. I forget the guy's name. Schultz or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't keep up with people as much as
I agree what you said, but here's the thing that concerns me, and I think Amber was right on this point because Amber again was on the Daily Beast podcast.
Yeah.
And she asked her, what are you going to do? They need you. Here's what she said. She told the Daily Beast podcast last week that she was told you need to be equal and be sure that you give it to both sides. And I was like, there's no way that's going to happen. Ruffin suggested that the Trump team lacked a sense of humor. I think they get their feelings hurt. And here's where I think she's right. She said they want that false equivalency that the media does. And she's right. They want a false equivalency. There's no equivalency. And maybe in humor, somehow you can manage that. But there's no equivalency between the Obama presidency and the Trump presidency. There's no equivalency between inciting an insurrection or denying the outcome of an election. And those are the things that people make jokes about. You'd have to completely ignore something like that if you were going to make everything equal, I believe.
Well, I don't even think you have to have those comparisons. I mean, in 2 months, there's been a ton of material of things you could make fun of.
Right.
I mean, this week alone with the whole
Right.
signal thing, I mean, there's tons of material of things you could make fun of and make jokes about. And it's not even Trump. I mean, God bless Trump for appointing a cabinet full of jokes. I mean, there's so many jokes in that cabinet. I mean, oh, John, I wouldn't even have time to get to the Democrats with all the people that Trump has.
That's the problem. That's what Amber's saying.
She wouldn't even have time to do both sides in this one. By the time you got through Hegseth and all these people, oh my God, the jokes. And she was like, oh, God damn it, there's more jokes over here. Sorry, guys. I meant to get to you, but there's just too many jokes. It's crazy.
What do you think she I guess Amber's fine. I'm just
Amber's fine. She has a show right now, which is great, that she does with Roy Wood Jr. But I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed for her because I really wanted to see her. It's a nice kind of thing to do, too. It's a nice showcase. It's, as you know, it's a really tough room, but that's not the point because you're not just performing for the people there. You're performing for the people at home, too, for the world. So it was kind of a nasty way for it to happen. So it doesn't sit well with me. Yeah.
What's your advice to, they said they're not going to have a comedian.
Whatever.
If they called you, would you do it right now?
Not this year. Absolutely not. I feel like I already did it, but Trump's not going to be there, which is another big thing too.
He might show up after this. You never know.
Why? Because there's no comedian now?
I think he might show up. I think he might show up because there's no comedian. He's going to love the attention and the spotlight. Like he's been showing up at football games around the country and at WWE or whatever you call him.
Yeah, but it's still the press, He doesn't like a lot of those people too. It's not like it's just his version of the press,
Well, if he has, because the president speaks right that night, and so if he has the opportunity to own the stage without a comedian, that's right up his alley.
Yeah, maybe. But what did he do when he didn't go last time? Did he send a speech? I don't even think he did anything, right?
No, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything.
Yeah. And they didn't have a comedian. What did they have? Ron Chernow they had one year talking about Hamilton or something.
No,
it couldn't get further. I think that was after what's her name torched the place. She was amazing.
Oh, Michelle Wolf.
Oh, she was amazing.
I was there. It was brutal. That was brutal. Yeah. Was sitting on the stage when she talked about her eye makeup, and oh my God, it was brutal. But I know people loved it. Did you love it?
Oh, chef's kiss, man. And by the way, I didn't go half as hard as she went, man. She went hard on them. I mean, really hard.
Well, that was that's the year when Trump got elected, and people were sort of outraged, like you guys sitting out in this fucking audience is the reason that you normalized him, and that's they believed, many people, that was the reason that he became president.
Yeah. The whole when Seth Meyers did it in was it 2013.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Seth was good. So what do you think right now? What's happening out in the world? If you said you'd be making fun of the signal, right? And
there's so many things.
Give me do you have a joke in mind that you would say? I know you have.
John, you don't need to write. You don't understand. You don't have to write these jokes. They are already written. You can't write things that are funnier than the thing that actually happens. I mean, Elon Musk being this baby daddy that they don't even care. Like he's getting all these women pregnant and everything is also another, topic. He's got another baby mama just sold a Tesla. Like he's got these welfare queens. It seems like that he's getting pregnant out there. Like what is going on? I mean,
Donald Trump isn't far behind. I'm saying, how many babies mamas does he have?
But
are they black?
But Elon is upfront about it. That's the thing. I've never even seen this like that. And of course, he has to be African American. Of course, that makes it all worse. Yeah. Go quit. Thanks, Elon. You had to put that part in there.
To make us look bad.
Yeah, you got anything to make us look bad. You got to do. Thanks.
You're writing a piece. You wrote a piece for the Daily Beast. Why did you write it?
The lovely Joanna Coles asked if I would weigh in because, I had done it before. Amber's a friend too, So I thought I would just, give a little point of view on it, a little ditty.
Yeah.
So,
and your thoughts?
Well, I'm still formulating that, but
as we're taping this, you'll have written it probably by the time this drops, but you're still formulating. Yes. And what are you
formulating?
What are you leaning towards?
Well, a lot of it is just what is the role of a comedian? It's kind of the angle that I'm taking too. And I think people are forgetting that. And also this whole notion, they use the word divisive, which I don't like a lot, Don. And I've seen this word used before where it's been lobbied at the people who are calling out divisiveness are the ones being called divisive. When I was doing the nightly show, I was calling out racism and I was called a race baiter, It's like
ding, 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 ding.
Yes. Yeah. By calling something out and by calling attention to it, by calling attention to women who have been victims of sexual abuse, then your victimhood, and all this kind of stuff, it's always turning these terms around to kind of take the air out of them, or these terms are misused and people are mislabeled, and they try to take the power away from what the job of someone like a comedian actually is, and sorry, but if a comedian is divisive, good for the comedian, what do you mean they might be divisive? Thank your lucky stars if they are.
Yeah. You've given us your take on the comedian. What is your take on the media right now? How are they? What's your assessment? You have a report card or?
No, I don't have a report card on the media. I always think, it's kind of tough these first few days. There's so much going on. That whole Steve Bannon thing about flooding the zone is really happening.
True.
With Trump and everything. So
he said I think flooding the zone was shit, didn't he?
Yeah, he may have said that. Yeah. It's hard to criticize the media. I know they're just trying to keep up and trying to figure things out and everything. But, Trump is in real danger of fumbling the most incredible gift, that any politician has been given. And that is this unbelievably loyal base that follows him everywhere, and rewards him for anything, and after that assassination attempt, I mean, you talk about having a Teflon shield that's unbreakable, even more so than Reagan's was. Remember how Reagan had that Teflon shield. But with this whole tariff thing and the way the economy is going, there's some warning signs. I'm not an economist, Don, but you can always see when you hear about a lot of people getting laid off that isn't even related to this government stuff. Like this is happening in corporations right now. I know people in the tech world and some of these other areas aren't part of Doge and this kind of stuff. There's some contractions happening out there. And when you see Trump fucking around with this whole tariff thing and not even caring what's happening with the stock market and everything, some of these are those leading indicators where 6 months from now we go, what the fuck happened? Yeah. It's like, well, the signs were there. People look back and say the signs were there. And from a political standpoint, you know, Trump could be in real danger of just really alienating that soft base that was for him, that those people in the middle who turned towards him, you know, and gave him the larger base, I guess you could say, you know, that swept in as part of the cultural part too. Because some people, even though there's been a cultural change and an electoral change, sometimes there's just an electoral shift, right? It doesn't really represent a cultural shift. I think we're seeing both the cultural shift and electoral shift. I really do. But I think a lot of the people who may have voted for Trump who are part of that cultural shift don't necessarily support him. You know, they probably voted for him for maybe specific reasons, or maybe they didn't like the Democrats or didn't like Kamala or whatever it is. But those people, they're not loyal to a party and they're not loyal to Trump. You know, they got swept in on that. And it's no joke when people are losing their jobs, you know, it is no joke, Don. And you can't be 45, 50, 55 years old. You're just going to suddenly, you know, find another job like the one you had for the last 15, 20 years. It just doesn't work like that, especially with the economy contracting. So I'm very concerned about that. And I do not like the snottiness that the right has about people that work for the government and government jobs, you know, and a lot of the civil service jobs, which, as we know, a lot of people of color, those were the jobs that we could get to get into the middle class, especially my father's generation. You know, my father was a probation officer, worked for the county of Los Angeles. He was the LA County sheriff. He later went back to school. He went back to school and became a doctor later. But his way into the middle class was through civil service jobs. And many of his friends were in that too. You know, that's how we broke through many of those lower ceilings, you know, those lower
servant or a teacher, right? Back in the day.
Exactly. A lot of those types of jobs. And not only that, John, they're very valuable jobs and very honorable work. People act like it's not honorable. When did work stop being honorable? I don't understand the way these ideas have shifted, this snottiness towards people who are doing honest work for a living. It's not their fault if the organization itself, the government or whatever, you know, maybe misses the mark here and there. You can make those arguments over whether an actual arm of the government is efficient enough or whatever, but the people working there, it's not their fault.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not, it is not their fault. Before I let you go, I just want to ask you, we talked about it a little bit, but when you saw and you heard about the signal thing, did you say this can't be real? Like everything that came out about it, it seems like somebody wrote it and you're like, there's no way that this is real. It was hilarious, I believe, and frightening at the same time.
I absolutely believed it. Are you kidding me? You know, of course. I'm surprised they don't communicate through words with friends chat, you know, or that's, you know, like I'm shocked that we didn't find that out, you know.
They're not Snapchatting with each other.
Exactly. Finish a words with friends and then chatting through that, you know. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, but completely believable. And then they're so full of shit trying to blame it on Jeffrey Goldberg or whatever. It's like, I thought JC was Jesus Christ. We were just letting him in the chat. We didn't know, you know. He said,
JC, I thought it was JC. It wasn't JG. I don't know him. I never met him. Jeffrey's like, oh, you know me. He had to be a source for Jeffrey, don't you think?
Of course. Of course. You know, like the bullshit doesn't work on the people that know how the sausage is made, you know. Yeah. It's like, of course. Stop
it. You can't bullshit a bullshitter.
Even Trump was kind of exhausted by those lies already. He was like, yeah, he probably fucked up. Yeah. Right? Like even Trump didn't want to go there. So yeah, he probably shouldn't have done that. They fucked up.
Larry, you're the best. Have you spoken to Amber at all? Have you reached out?
I reached out to her, we touched base briefly, you know, and yeah, so she's doing good though.
She's doing well. Well, give her my regards. And I thank you for coming on. You're the best, man.
You are too, Don. It's so good seeing you again.
For old time's
Back
sake.
to you, man.
Take care, brother.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.